You know, it's only so long you can cope and you can hope and you can dream and wish for things to change and wish to have a woman in your life. And the reality is just that you'll probably never ever have a good woman in your life ever when you're a guy in this position. And it's absolutely brutal when you go your whole entire life without having that real love from a woman, and dealing with the isolation, dealing with psychological degradation that comes with being alone for such a long time and trying to go from cope to cope to hope to hope. It's enough to break anybody, honestly, because it's not natural for anybody to be alone for as long as as we have been alone. It's not natural. It's not normal. But then you look at the situations we had to face in life, and a lot of situations that we went through in life were just not natural either. A lot of us been through very, very difficult situations and very unique situations. That's each different for each one of us, but it shares the same similarities, the same qualities of rejection, of isolation, of degradation, of just manipulation by those around you. And it's brutal when you discover that your whole life is determined based on how you look like, based on how your bone structure and how your face structure looks like, based on, you know, who you share your bloodline with and things of that nature. It's brutal once you realize how this world is and how it operates. But I think some of us, man, those that go through hell in this life, some of us do deserve a pat on the back for keeping up with all this bull crap and not snapping and not breaking down and going to ER. Because a lot of us go through, it's just like the things we go through is just, it's horrendous. There's only so many times you could wake up every single day and then do the exact same shit for 40, 50 years. It's like life is supposed to be an adventure. Life is supposed to be some type of, some type of movement in it. It's supposed to contain some type of movement. It's supposed to be some type of like, almost like a movie in a way, like your life should be almost like a movie, not a boring movie. You have the beginning, then you come to the understanding of what you are. Then you start believing in your understanding. Then you start learning the truth. And then the system attacks you, right? Because you know the truth. Like, it's just everybody's life needs some movement and some improvement, right? But a lot of us, bro, we've been neglected for such a long time emotionally. you know, like we don't have those experiences with females that you need later in life, to make a wife, to, be a good husband, first be a good boyfriend, or just first be a good date. Then after that, be a good boyfriend and be a good fiance and be a good husband. You see, when you're in excess, man, you got to jump through those type of hoops. Now, if you're Chad or Tyrone, all you got to do is just just be alone to make her moan. You know what I mean? That's just what it is when you're a Chad or Tyrone. They don't got to go through all those steps. They go straight to, baby daddy. They go straight from looking at each other, then baby daddy, and then Tyrone ups and leaves somewhere or gets locked up in jail. Chad doesn't give a damn. Chad's living like Elon Musk, you know what I mean? With multiple baby mamas, but is a billionaire and has a complexion for the protection, so he doesn't get, that much criticism. It's brutal. But it's not good for us, man, to be in this position, man. Because you got to think about everything in your life that led you to the mindset you have now. You didn't just stumble upon this mindset of what they would call nihilism or what they would call, BP content. This is something that you gradually see. It gradually happens over the years of deterioration, the years of facing obliteration, the years of the rejection, not having the girl that you want, the exact girl that you want, not some girl that's overweight, not some girl that, uh, looks like a walrus or beluga whale, but a girl that actually looks decent, cute face, nice body, something that you be like, hey, I like this, it's something I can mess with, like I think every man deserves to have that once in their life, especially if that man has a good heart or if that man's a good person, right? That's what I believe personally. But that's not what the world believes. The world believes every asshole, every miscreant, every deviant, every thug, every gangster, every somebody with a negative connotation. I'm not saying that people that were born into that life or chose that life is just naturally bad people. What I'm saying is that compared to, like, there's other guys who are not living that life. They're living a more safer life, and they're, you know, and they're not getting any female attention or validation at all. It's only the bad guys that win. And they wonder why most men say, F being a nice guy, I'm just going to pay this escort, to get my rocks off and bada bang, bada boom, you know? But there's others that never had emotional connectivity with women, and that's when it hurts. That's when it breaks, and that's when it makes you go berserk. Not having that emotional connectivity, because that's something that you really need. Like we're human beings at the end of the day, man. You need to have that emotional feeling, that emotional touch from a female. You need to have that, man. Don't let nobody tell you different. Talking about, oh, you can cope. You can only cope for so long. You know, you can only 420 blaze it until it runs out. Then you need more money to get it. And then if you don't have any money, especially if you're a NEET, well, you're gonna be stuck there for weeks or months until you get enough money saved up to get it again. And then as soon as you get it, it's gone again. And the same with video games. Like, and they may be good, but then you beat the game, then you get bored of it. Then it's like, and at least if you had a woman in your life, even though more than likely she wouldn't stay with you for long, especially guys in opposite situation, but just having it, even for 5 minutes, even for 10 minutes, even for 5 days, hell, even for a week, whatever it is, just having it at all, that adds like a little block, a little small building block to your confidence and your experience. When you don't engage in it at all you have is your imagination, all you have is your dreams and fascinations. And that's not enough, man. That's not enough to really live a fulfilling life. It's not. And then they wonder why a lot of guys just opt out of life. They opt out of life because they don't find a reason for living. What's the reason for living when you're still trapped in a prison? Where it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're still going to be rejected. You're still going to be neglected. Nobody's going to take you seriously. Everybody in this world looks at you like you're a failure. They call you a failure. They say you'll never amount to anything. You have nobody in your corner. You have nobody on your side. Everybody's against you. Everybody dislikes you. So how are you supposed to take it? Just smile and keep on going on? Come on. You know, like some people are not sheep. Some people can see through the matrix. That's makeshift. That's also fake-ish. It's just. And another thing, man, it makes you more socially unviable. The longer you go without that real, genuine emotional touch, because as you get older and older and older, people expect you to have more emotional maturity, even though some people that, around your age or even older, they may not have emotional maturity. They may have the maturity of a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old, and these are people that are way older, but that's just the way the world goes, man. It's just a brutal, brutal place. But if you just notice, man, that not having that girl that you really wanted in your life, it led to you thinking a lot of negative things about yourself. It led to people around you to start to think negative things about you. You notice that? Like when you don't have a girlfriend and people around you or whatever are able to talk crap and judge you more. But if you have a girlfriend, they're probably still gonna talk crap. But they have to respect. At least you have a partner. At least you found somebody. Meanwhile, there's guys out there that you know that have never ever ever even touched a female once. You know what I mean? Maybe a hug from like their sister's friend, that came over one Halloween or something like that. But for the most part, they've never, ever, ever had any type of romantic relationships with a female in their life. And these are grown ass men. And they expect these grown men to just magically mature and magically find this and do that and pay this and do that. These men are already emotionally destroyed inside. Do you know how difficult it is to go through that as a grown man? Knowing that things that you should have had as a teenager, you know what I mean? That you haven't had when you're a grown man, how that's going to affect every part of your life. It's going to affect everything: your reasoning, your understanding, your behavior, but your beliefs, your confidence. You know that plays a major effect. And I wish all of us would be able to get the girls that we wanted in this world, to get the dream girl that we always wanted, the dream girl that we always wanted to have. I think every man should at least experience that once. Every man that's not an ass, every man that's not a stalker, every man that's not evil, every man that's a good, honest person. I believe that if you got a good heart, you should be able to have the girl that you want at least one time, and be able to enjoy like at least a month with her, before she moves on to Chad or Tyrone, because that's probably going to happen when the guys like excess guys like us in this position. The girl's just going to be with you, use you up, and throw you to the side like a used tampon. It's brutal. But it's the truth. When you don't have the looks for the hook, you know what I mean? Then it's like she's gonna book, and that's all it took. Point blank. It's brutal, man. Absolutely a brutal world we live in, where your emotions play a huge They have a huge role in your on your path to life. And when your emotions are always manipulated, you're not allowed to be happy. You're not allowed to be free. You're not allowed to be visible. You're like you're only your emotions are responding to negative circumstances you're surrounded with. That's going to do something to your mind in the long run, especially when all you want is peace, all you want is tranquility, all you want is the ability to create, the ability to innovate. You just want to smoke your little weed, make your little music, or you just want to play your little video game, watch your anime, and just not be bothered, you know? But the world's going to find a way to disrupt that peace because we don't live in a loving, peaceful world. We literally live in a world that's designed to harvest your energy. And the best harvest they get is negative energy, which is why you're always going through negative situations and events because your soul releases a energy whenever it's traumatized, and that energy that comes from that trauma, that comes from that pain, that makes you go insane. That energy is what the God of this world needs to keep on creating and to keep on being stronger and powerful than us. This is why we're getting loose farmed and loose harvested. You know, this is why this whole world is hell. This whole world's a mess. We're nothing but sheeple. Spiritual sheeple to these evil beings. That's why you can learn the truth and know about it, and yet nothing changes because you don't have the power to change it. You don't have to believe me if I talk about the luge farm. Just look at your life and look at everything you've been through. And you can't tell me all of it was just an accident. All of it was just your fault. Certain things line up too perfectly with something trying its best to get you angry, something trying to get you off the rocker, something trying its best to make you angry so it can feed off your negative energy. Just look around. Look around who's around you. Look around who you have to deal with. Look around at what you can and cannot do. Look around at how frustrated you are in your life, the job you're working at, you know, all the beautiful girls you see, but you can never have. Not never having enough money to get what you want. You want to buy a video game at this time, you don't have the money. You want to get food this time, but you don't have the money. You want to go out to fucking France with a girl, but you don't have the money. It always comes down to the money. So it makes you wonder that if there's a God that knows all this, how come this God doesn't just teleport a suitcase in your room with $1 million to help you out? Wouldn't you do that if you were a God and somebody that you really loved is struggling and they're fucked up in life, they're messed up in the head? Wouldn't you just give them teleport $1 million to them or give them some type of money or some type of something instead of letting them suffer, or at least put a girl in their life to help get their mind right? Wouldn't you do that? Right? That seemed about the most plausible thing to do, right? You see somebody struggling, so you put a woman in their life to help them out mentally and physically and emotionally. You don't just ignore them. You don't just ignore that like they're nothing. Like what kind of crazy shit is that, right? Wouldn't a good God want you to be successful and would help you, right? And not put you through hell, not put you through misery. Like what's the purpose of this pain in this world? Being lonely for such a long time. It does something to the mind, man. Being a lonely male, man, it does something to your psyche. It does something to your belief. It does something to you, and it's negative. You know, it's not good to be alone. It's not good to be going through stressful situations by yourself with no help, no outlet, and nobody that you can really depend on or talk to. And then on top of that, no privacy. You know what I mean? Like, you make a YouTube channel just to mind your business, and then next thing you know, people who you don't want to find it. You got family members who watch every video but try to pretend that they don't so they won't look stalkerish, but they already showed their hand. You know, envious, jealous people that are just so sucking vampires that you should never have in your life. Because some people, man, honestly, they don't deserve to be in your life. And you have to realize that.